Esztergom. How is that going to be possible? It says we arrive in Esztergom at 7:15 and we leave at 7:30 and do a 4-hour... Okay, that's a mystery to me, but I'll let you know. It is Sunday, August 1st, 2021, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofatime, we're going to talk about all the details of my now confirmed upcoming river cruise. It looks like it's happening, everybody, unless there's some crazy weather or some big spikes in you know what. I will be leaving in just a few days for my very first river cruise. We talked about this recently in another Sofatime, but just to catch everybody up, I'm gonna be cruising with a company called Plantours here in Germany on the Donau River, leaving Passau, going to a couple interesting, well, more than a couple interesting places. We're gonna talk about all that. I've got it all printed out here, and I've never done a river cruise before. I've only done ocean cruising, and I know this is gonna be very different, and like I said, now I have all the details, so let's just get into it. By the way, before I forget, please let me know in the comments if you've ever done a river cruise. Just let me know, like, yes or no, I have been on a river cruise with this company. I'm just interested, okay? It's actually Saturday right now. I'm filming this Saturday evening. It's rainy and super windy outside. In fact, I would think that this wind is probably a 6 or a 7 on the Beaufort scale. Hashtag Project Captain Morgan. So Monday night, which is like a day and a half or 2 days away from now, I'm gonna be taking a night train from Hamburg way down to Passau, Germany, which if I were to take a train there during the day, it would be about 6.5 hours. And there's no really easy way to fly there because I would have to fly from here to Munich and then take a train from Munich airport into Munich and then change and then take a train from Munich over to Passau. So I'm just taking the night train, and I'm gonna try to make a video about that too, because I think that's something that a lot of people, have like zero experience with, right? I mean, I know a lot of you live in North America, and I don't know if you've ever taken, a train as a transportation form to get from one city to another before, much less have actually slept on a train. And so I thought that would be an interesting video subject, and it just fit into the plan of how this is all working. So I booked a bed in a 4-bed room on this train. That's how it works. You can book a private room, but I didn't do that for 2 reasons. One was it cost 300 euros for that. And the other one was because I actually looked into it and they were all already booked out. So this was the option that was left, and this is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna be sleeping in this cabin with 2 bunk beds. Reminds me kind of like a youth hostel feeling, so I don't know. But a girlfriend of mine just took this very same stretch, the same company, the same train, a couple of weeks ago, and she said it was fantastic, so we'll see. Then I arrive in Passau early in the morning. I think I arrive at 6 in the morning on August 3rd, and that's where the cruise begins, and I get to embark on the ship, or I get to go onto the ship at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we sail away. Do you call it sail away? I have to learn all the river cruise lingo now. We leave Passau on the river at 7 o'clock that evening, and then we're just, I want to call it sailing, coasting, floating, cruising that night. And the next place that we stop is going to be in Austria, in a city called Dürnstein, which is a very small, little dorf. And we're going to be there from 11 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I have requested to do a itinerary or a excursion. And this is something that's different. I mean, a big difference about an ocean cruise in comparison to a river cruise. And I'm gonna be talking about so many of these things in upcoming videos, just the differences in comparing the one to the other, of course. And I don't know if this is just with this company or if it's with most river cruises, but I had to fill out a form and send it back to them to pick the excursions I want to do. So I got this list of the possible excursions, and I made my check marks and I sent it back to them. I haven't gotten any kind of confirmation, but I hope these are the excursions I will be doing. This is all in German, so I'm going to be translating it into English, in my head here. So the first one that I'm going to be doing is in the city of Dürnstein in Austria, and it's called everything about the marilla. And the marilla is this fruit. Hey everybody, Morgan from the future again. I'm just editing this together. These marilla, they're basically apricots. It's just apricots that grow in this very special region. So every time I say marilla, think apricot. All right, said we're gonna take a bus ride through the through like a wine country there, and then stop. Sorry, it's kind of hard for me to do this, but I'm trying to get better at it. And then we arrive at, I guess, a farm where they grow this fruit, and from this fruit they make a lot of things. They make like marmalade, and they make sparkling wine, they make schnapps, I guess. And so we're gonna get to try all these things. Then at the end, we go back through the wine country. It sounds like there might be perhaps a wine tasting happening. In the end, we've got a little bit of free time to walk around, I guess it says here, and just look at things on our own in the city or at the farm, I don't know. And the whole thing is gonna take about 2.5 hours. And that's what another comparison that's interesting to me is that we stop at a lot of places on this river cruise, and it's only a week long. So one major difference between ocean cruising and river cruising is we're gonna be stopping at 2 different places in one day. And I don't think I've ever been on an ocean cruise that's done that. Have you? So at 2 o'clock, we're back on board. We sail away down the Donau River, and we arrive in Vienna at 7 o'clock that evening. And I'm really looking forward to visiting Vienna because it's one of these huge, like famous European metropolises that I've never been to. I've lived here for 22 years and I've never been to Vienna. I've been to Berlin and Paris and Copenhagen and all, I've been to all these places and I've never been to Vienna. So I'm really looking forward to that. There were excursions offered, but I decided not to book one, and I made some plans in Vienna on my own. And one of the things that I'm super, super excited to see is the Prater. The Prater is like a traditional, you can't call it an amusement park because it's more like a fair, but it's there year round. And the thing that makes it less like a theme park and more like a fair is, one, there's no pay one price ticket, you pay per ride, and each individual ride at this quite large like amusement area is owned by an individual like family or company. Isn't that cool and strange and different? And when I was growing up in St. Paul, Minnesota, South St. Paul, Minnesota, back in, back then, I was already fascinated with roller coasters and theme parks and amusement parks as a little boy, and my local library had a section about amusement parks that was maybe like this big, and I think there were 6 books in it. One of them was about the history of Ferris wheels, and a large part of this book talked about this famous Ferris wheel at the Prater in Vienna. So it's just a really cool thing for me to see this now, this thing that I spent so much time, I checked out these books over and over and over at the library just because I was so hungry for information about theme parks. And back then, we didn't have Google, we didn't have the internet, we had the library and books that you could buy or television specials if they were gonna be about theme parks. So it's just gonna be really cool to actually go there and see this thing that I read about so many years ago and spent so much time studying, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm gonna be doing the next day, which is when we have more time in Vienna. We arrive there at 7 o'clock in the evening, and that night I think I'm going to just sort of go out and see the city, maybe find a nice place for dinner. If any of you have a dinner recommendation for Wien, let me have it. Sorry, I think I just called it Wien. That's the German way to say it. I know it's actually Vienna in English. Here we call it Wien. We leave Vienna or Wien at 7 o'clock the next day, so the 5th, and then we float through the night, and the next place that we visit is also someplace I'm excited to see. I've never been before. It's Budapest in Hungary. And I'm gonna tell you about what I have planned there right after this commercial break. If you got a commercial break, please let me know in the comments below. I'm just always interested to hear if it worked or it didn't. All right, Budapest in Hungary. We arrive there at 12:30 in the afternoon on the 6th, and we don't leave until 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the next day, the 7th. And recently on television here, or maybe it was a YouTube video, I'm not sure anymore, I saw this documentary about all the baths, the public medicinal, what do they call them again? Thermal baths in Budapest. And so I picked one out. It's probably the most famous. It's probably also the most touristy, but because it was part of this special on television, I just decided this is the one I want to go to. And I think you pronounce it Zazni, the Zazni Baths. I just want to go there and see it. So they have outdoor swimming in this warm, like thermal water from under the ground. They also have a spa area with saunas and whirlpools, and they offer massages, and the massages are so cheap. I think I'm paying 45 euros for a 60-minute massage, which is like, that's about 15 euros cheaper than the cheapest massage I've ever had here on land. And it's way cheaper than the cost of a massage on a ship, especially like on Disney. So I just decided that's gonna be like my sort of relaxed day, even though I will be filming and bringing you along with me. All right, we're leaving Budapest, like I said, in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, and actually we get to our next destination that evening, and it's called Esztergom. I don't know how to say it correctly. And I need to go through my information here again to let you know what. I'm going to be visiting the city of Puszta and Tanicsárdá. Sounded kind of Italian, didn't it? Sorry, I'm not versed in the proper way to speak out the name of Hungarian cities. This is also going to be sort of a nature-based excursion. We're going to see, I guess, a farm where they raise some famous kind of horses there. I think the horses are called Puszta or Puszta horses. And we also get to try some traditional schnapps and some traditional baked goods. So a little bit to drink, a little bit to snack on. And then there's going to be some kind of horse riding show, I guess. The whole thing is going to take 4 hours, and it's about a 15-minute... Oh, and then there's also a coach ride. So like a horse-drawn carriage ride. And it says here, it is very bumpy. So not for guests with back problems. Can you tell that it's sort of geared toward the older generation? By the way, I know I said this last week too, and I wrote it on Instagram, and I'm sure I wrote it on Facebook too, that if you've been to any of these cities and there's something that you think I really should see that I haven't mentioned, or if you think there's something I definitely should not bother seeing, please let me know. I'm always open for those suggestions and comments. All right, we leave Esztergom. Well, see, this is something that's weird to me. It says we're in Esztergom for 15 minutes. How is that possible? I wonder if the excursion leaves in Budapest and then the ship leaves and they bring us back to the ship when it gets to Esztergom. How is that going to be possible? It says we arrive in Esztergom at 7:15 and we leave at 7:30 and do a 4-hour... Okay, that's a mystery to me, but I'll let you know. We are cruising through the night, and on the 8th, we are in Bratislava, which is in Slovakia. I mean, when would I ever be going to Slovakia if I wasn't taking this river cruise? So I'm looking forward to that, and I did book a small excursion. It's excursion number 14, by the way, and it's a walking tour through part of the city to see the landmarks and stuff like that. And I just thought that sounded really interesting. It's 3 hours long, and it includes some kind of tourist train. I'm not sure what that means. And it's not because I don't understand what is written here. It's because it's just, there's not a lot of information about it. This is, it's just this sort of 2 paragraphs. And it says that there's a tourist train we can take. If you take the tourist train, then altogether it's 3 hours. And I'm probably going to be taking the tourist train, so you'll be seeing that too. Moving on. On the 9th, we are also in 2 different cities in Austria. One of them is called Melk, M-E-L-K, and the other one is called Grein. And I know that somebody wrote to me that they saw a beautiful church or abbey in Melk. And so I booked that excursion as well to see the Baroque, I guess it's called a stift here, but I think that's the abbey, the church. It's this thing here. That's got to be it, right? I mean, Melk is a tiny little town. And it ends with some kind of terrace with a beautiful view over the river, I guess. Coffee and tea served, and then whole thing takes about 3.5 hours. We'll see some culture, we'll see the river, maybe take a bus ride, and have a coffee. Why not? That evening, on the way back to Passau, we are going to be in Grein, not Grind, Grein. Maybe they call it green. I don't know. And I didn't book anything for there because I figured it's the last evening and I thought, you know, I just want to relax. We arrive in Passau then the next morning, the 10th, and then I come back home and I'm going to be taking a normal like daytime train home, not the night train because I arrive early in the morning with the cruise and it fit better that way. So that's my upcoming cruise and I'm just really curious about what this is going to be like because yeah, it's just going to be so different. I really don't think, you know, the more I look at the design of the ship, the more I look at the way the excursions are set up, the more I just think, you know, you really can't compare this to ocean cruising. It's not like really the same category except that it's called a cruise, you know what I mean? And yeah, that begins in a couple days and those videos will be going online on this channel in a couple weeks. So that's what you have to look forward to. But before I say goodbye for today, now comes a time on Sunday Sofatime where I comment on your comments live on air. In last week's Sunday Sofatime, I can't believe this was only a week ago, I talked about how I was planning on doing this river cruise, but it had not yet been confirmed, and because it had been canceled like 1.5 times before, I wasn't so sure that it was going to happen. Now it's gonna happen. These comments are on that video where I talked about just the things that are coming up on the channel. First comment is from Jane Kirby. Jane writes, I appreciate that you did anything at all for us when having a vacation with Marcus. You could have just abandoned the channel for that time. Everyone is entitled to time off. I just wanted to say thank you, Jane. It makes me feel good to get that kind of positive feedback as well. I did get a lot of positive feedback when I took a little break. I did get some negative feedback too, and of course the negative stuff always is louder for some reason, but it's nice to know that there are people out there that understand. So thank you very much, Jane. Next comment is from Dynamo. They write, we recently did a Mississippi River cruise. Definitely different vibe from ocean cruising, but we would do another US river cruise on another river. And I have to tell you something, cruising down the Mississippi sounds fascinating to me. I know there are a couple companies that do it. One of the main reasons, just besides it being so different than ocean cruising, that I never really look at it is because the last time I looked, the prices were just so exorbitantly high that I just figured, nah, that's not gonna happen. But I wouldn't say no to a Mississippi River cruise. I would love, especially if I could leave, you know, like in St. Paul and end up in New Orleans or something like that, that would be amazing. I don't know geographically and with, you know, the locks and dams and stuff, if that's even possible, but I'm just saying. And while I was going through the comments here, I found so many again who were talking about the Abbey in Melk, so I just picked one out here. It's from Cheryl Hammer. Cheryl writes, the Melk Abbey is amazing. It had the most beautiful library I have ever seen. So I'm gonna see that too in just a week, and I'm looking forward to bringing you all with me. And now I'm actually gonna stay seated right here. I'm not even gonna change my shirt to give you the impression that it's a different day. I'm gonna film next week's Sofatime today so I can have it online before I leave. And I'm gonna be telling you about my next cruise, which we've already booked. And you know, I feel special a lot. A lot of that has to do with you and this YouTube community that I have here. And also, you know, my previous career as a musical theater performer that I've talked about a lot on my other channel, Guten Morgen. I feel special and I feel loved and all that. But you know, on my next cruise, I might feel like a celebrity. See you next week.